How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mass Media Hysteria, the podcast about the latest in television and movies, and occasionally just whatever we want to talk about. Today, I'm your co-host, one of your co-hosts, Chris. Our regular ringleader, Court, is off for today. He should be returning next week. So I'm joined with my other co-host, Andris.
Howdy.
And I don't know, man. I think we got a really good episode
Oh
lined up
yeah.
today. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about. So just to briefly go over what we're going to be discussing, brand spanking new trailer for The Matrix 4 Resurrections. I already kind of shared a bit of my thoughts on it, but Andres, I'm sure, has a lot to say about this. I'm curious because he's been a little coy about it in the group chat we have, so I want to know what he thinks. Then we're going to be talking about the latest episode of Marvel's What If, a very highly anticipated one, Zombie What If Zombies, I think is just what it's called.
Yeah, they just didn't even dress it up.
You're like, fuck it, who cares? I don't know. And keeping in that horror theme, then we're going to be talking about the latest HBO Max and Warner Brothers film, Malignant. I have a lot to say about this.
I cannot wait to talk about it.
This is, yeah, I messaged you. I was like, this is, oh my God. So way more to talk about with that than I thought going in. And then we're gonna cap off the episode with one of our off-topic topics. Andres, tell us what that is.
Well, we're going to be talking about our non-Godzilla kaiju, our favorites, because we're two Godzilla fans, and we can get a little mileage out of that conversation. So
Sure.
here we go.
Yeah. So if anybody's checked out some of our other episodes, where it's just Andres and I, we just geek out and talk about kaiju and Godzilla. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, right on. So let's get into it. The Matrix
Mhm.
4. Matrix, where we did another one, reboot everything. That's the name of the game.
Yes.
So like I said, I already shared a bit of my thoughts, so I'd like to throw it to you. What were your thoughts going in to even before the trailer? Just the idea of, okay, they're doing a fourth Matrix. And
I
then what were your thoughts after seeing the trailer?
To be honest, I didn't know they were doing one before they hit the trailer.
Really?
I had no idea. I
Mhm.
just it got quiet.
Mhm.
Reloaded and Revolutions happened, and it's like, okay.
Mhm.
The teaser did nothing for me. I was confused. I mean, there was just a lot of images happening, and I'm like, what okay.
Mhm.
Then the trailer happened. That changed things a bit. I
Mhm.
am intrigued,
Okay.
but I'm cautious.
Yeah.
That's me.
What are some of the cautions, or what about it makes you cautious?
Well, it's ambitious for them to go back to the Matrix, the Wachowskis, because they built their careers on that franchise, and
Mhm.
they went off and they did 100 other things. Not that great though.
Mhm.
I haven't seen their show. I've heard good things about the show that they did.
Mhm.
But going back to the Matrix, especially the way it ended, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But they're taking it a very different direction. So I'm
Mhm.
intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, same here. I agree. To kind of echo what you were saying. Um I have some apprehensions, but I think at the moment I'm more optimistic than I am pessimistic, and that could change. But I was a massive fan of the Matrix
Oh yeah.
trilogy. I just kind of grew up in the right time. Even as a kid, though, I think that I acknowledged that there was a decline in quality. Like the first one is mwah, like chef's kiss.
Oh yeah.
Second one, I still like Reloaded. I think there's a lot to like about it, but then there's also a lot of things that it's like that's questionable. Um, and then the third one was very disliked when it first came out, but I think that myself included, a lot of people have kind of softened on in, on it a bit, just because I don't know about you, because it's been a bit since I've seen it, but the last time I did see it, I think I just kind of respected how big of a swing the Wachowskis went for it. Like it's ambitious, and especially for like a third film in a series, it certainly didn't feel like a studio was just saying, "Oh, just make another one, just do the exact same thing." Like it's different. It
Yeah.
didn't all kind of coalesce, didn't work. So the trilogy ended on a sour note for me. And yeah, this new one, It looks interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
it right off the bat, we're starting with these images that kind of look different. Like it doesn't really seem to fit the tone of the original Matrix, which
that's that is the
okay.
first thing I noticed myself.
Mm.
I was like, oh, the blue and green tint that the movies were
Yeah.
known for, it's just gone.
Yeah.
Everything looks naturally colored,
Hmm.
and that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, more even like hyper saturated. The colors like really popped, and yeah, the green tint is mostly gone. You see some greenness throughout the trailer, especially in certain moments, but the green tint is gone. Not only that, but a lot of the film noir aesthetic is gone. It's
yeah,
everything seems really bright and glossy, which kind of makes sense. You know, it's like the original green tint for the Matrix came about because of computers around the time in the 90s, especially if you were like doing data entry and stuff. It would be typing that neon green
mm-hmm.
lettering on a black screen,
Oh
and
yeah,
so they really pulled that imagery from it. But now computers have come a long way, so when you think of technology, you think of the internet, it's all glossy, everything's super quick and fast.
oh
um
yeah,
so I didn't mind it. I mean, I appreciate that they're going kind of in a different visual direction. And but
yeah.
there's the one kind of caveat I have, or the one kind of concern I have, is that it does seem to be taking a lot of inspiration, even kind of the story beats that we're able to pick up from the trailer, from the very first film.
Mm-hmm.
Like Neo doesn't seem to remember who he is anymore. Carrie Ann Moss's character Trinity doesn't seem to know who she is. So it's about kind of like getting taking the red pill again, learning about the whole thing. And so a fear that I have is that the movie's gonna be a little Force Awakens-y in
Ah,
in
I
that
see.
it's
Yeah,
it's
uh,
more of like a reboot remake than a sequel. Do you
soft reboot. Yeah,
do you get that vibe kind of from the trailer?
I could see that. But yeah, at this time, without knowing too
Hmm.
much, it's so hard to like, you know. I got no idea. I think that repetition is
Hmm.
going to be there will be something about it.
Hmm.
But already you're seeing discussion questions popped up where people are like, oh, well, it means that everybody's just reincarnated. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
but then why is Lawrence Fishburne's character gone?
Yeah.
It's raising questions where it's
Hmm.
like, want to talk about it. We need the movie though,
For sure.
because we don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. At this point, it's kind of like we're in the dark of what exactly is going on, which is cool. To clarify, I've said it on the show before, but I am actually a very big fan of The Force Awakens. So it wasn't
Oh
a
yeah.
knock. Well, yeah, it wasn't a knock against that movie. It's just that I think that even the biggest fans acknowledge that The Force Awakens was too similar in story beats and plot points to the
Yeah.
original A New Hope. But I actually quite like the Wachowskis. This time it's just Lana Wachowski that's writing and directing it. Her sister Lily she wanted to do something else creatively at this time. But she seems to be like very supportive of this. It wasn't like any bad blood. But I like the majority of their work. In that show you were talking about is called Sense8, which
Yes.
which is on Netflix, and it got canceled, which is a shame.
Oh.
I love that show. Like I love it. It is corny and saccharine as you can. Just the dialogue, oftentimes is so cheesy, but it's so earnest and it's so original that I just love it regardless. So I recommend that. But yeah, I really hope that since I like their other work, I'm rooting for Lana Wachowski to really kind of like subvert expectations, to kind of
Yeah.
present like the repetition of like, oh yeah, he's back in the Matrix, he doesn't know what's going on, he has to take the red pill again, but then it goes into like to different directions that we're not expecting. So yeah.
I hope so too. I got a good feeling they
Uh-huh.
probably will.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Wachowskis, if anything, they've always been very daring
Yes.
filmmakers.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like it's pretty safe to say it's not gonna be safe.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, again, even if going back to the original trilogy, one thing you can't say about the sequels is that they're not just this retread of the original movie. Like
Yeah.
they really went in weird directions or different directions. So, yeah, yeah. Looking forward to it. But hoping that this one is good. I'm hoping that it just kind of has like that dip in quality of like, third one's not good, but the fourth one kind of brings it back. So
Oh yeah,
fingers crossed.
absolutely.
Cool. Moving on. The latest episode of Marvel's What If, as we said in the beginning, has the very creative title of just What If Zombies, which is
Yes.
fine. The titles doesn't matter. It doesn't make or break the show.
Yes,
But
after walking away and saying we're not doing this, we said we'll come back if they do the zombie episode, and we've arrived.
it was
Here we
true.
go.
Yeah. Because for anyone that doesn't know, we have not been the biggest fans of this show. It just wasn't work. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
It doesn't work for Andris, and even Court was kind of like, eh. I thought the zombie episode, because I knew it was coming. I saw it
yeah,
in the previews. I thought it was going to be later. I didn't expect it literally to be like one the week after we said we weren't going to do it again. It's just
yeah.
okay, fine. So they brought us back in. But Andres, tell me, did this episode change anything for you about this show? Are your thoughts the same? Let me hear it. Your face is telling me no.
I'm an expressive face man. Yeah, no, just more of the same. It was interesting to see Disney. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, it is Marvel, but it is Disney animation, and it's
Mhm.
it's their style. It
Mhm.
was interesting seeing them tackle a zombie episode,
Mhm.
but no, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I will, yeah, a few things I'll say is that I was surprised by kind of, I don't know, it never really got dark, but it got violent, which we've
Yes,
talked about before. The show seems tonally kind of off to me all the time. Like it really does seem like it's skewing younger often, but then it'll have really violent scenes. And this one is the most like people's, they're zombies, so they're getting cut in half, they're getting blown away, their
hell
head,
yeah.
Tony Stark's head was this is spoilers by the way. Uh his head was eaten by a giant ant, which was kind of cool.
Hell
So
yeah.
there were so I kind of applauded that they went kind of as dark as they could. There's no
Mhm.
real blood. Like even the zombie blood is just kind of like, black sludge, which
Yeah.
you can get away with. So I appreciated that element. Um, but overall, yeah, it's still the problems that I think we've had in the past still
My
linger.
See, my biggest problem, because we're both big zombie fans.
Yeah.
My biggest issue, I was just like, wait, these are zombies. How can they know how to continue to do their Marvel superhero things?
Mhm.
That's implausible. I'm sorry. A zombie wouldn't be able to cast a spell or use a
Yeah.
power. I was like, no, come on. No,
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
them shambling corpses, man.
It didn't make sense. They wanted like best of both worlds because we've seen examples in other zombie media of like smart zombies, or zombies that are like intelligent to an extent.
Yeah.
So it's like if they kind of leaned into that angle more, that kind of been interesting. But I had the same thought. It's just like, well, it seems like 99% of these are just the shambling zombies, the mindless zombies. But then you have like Tony Stark zombie that's like, I'm assuming it requires like skill and coordination and knowledge of the suit to power his Iron Man suit.
Oh
Same with
yeah.
same with the zombie with Doctor Strange and Wong. It's like, yeah, do they have to think about it? Like they're still doing spells. So what is it? Are they still the same person?
Yeah. I mean, if you think back to 2008's Iron Man, when he's testing the armor out, he
Mhm.
got thrown around the room a couple of times, and it's
Yeah,
like a zombie Tony Stark would have blown his own arm off and then
yeah.
like dead, or
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just a little implausible. I mean, we're talking about zombies, but there's a degree of
Yeah.
plausibility that you can maintain in a zombie
It's
story.
one of those things where it has to have sort of an internal logic. Like
Yeah.
I think that a lot of audiences, like ourselves included, could go with sort of a fantasy setting or a fantasy plot if it has like a set guideline of
Mhm.
rules and it just kind of adheres to it. So right, any like regular zombie stuff. Um, okay, sure, they're the shambling zombies or they're the fast zombies. Even in some of like Romero's films, like was it the Day of the Dead, they were showing like, okay, with enough time, these
Yes.
zombies, they're almost like toddlers in the sense that like they start off as just like mindless, but they can kind of learn. They can
Yeah.
learn how to use tools. But it was done in a way where he didn't, the zombies in that didn't just immediately pick up on it and were communicating. Like, it
Yeah.
took time to teach him to press things. I don't know. So
Yeah.
they wanted best of both worlds, where they're like, well, it's not just enough just to have Tony Stark be a zombie. He has to also do Iron Man stuff. And it's not
And
just, yeah, go ahead.
Hawkeye was still a skilled archer where you're like,
Right?
come on.
Right?
And like what was it? Falcon still flying. I'm like, no. He would
Yeah.
have crashed into a building and he would have
Mhm.
been a splat on the wall.
It didn't make sense. I know it's a cartoon, so don't at me. But it also didn't even really follow the internal logic set up with the franchise. For instance, we have Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp, right?
Mhm.
So in the Ant-Man movies, they established that you have to have these suits on, especially covering your face, because if you shrink or if you expand without the suit is what protects you.
Yeah.
So if that's broken, especially the glass, you'll probably just explode. And then, so at the end of this episode, we see that she goes, into big giant mode, and then her glass gets broken, so her suit is exposed, but she's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, you're not even adhering to like the rules that you set up in previous movies.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but couldn't Wasp fly?
Yes, yes, she could. And I missed it, but I didn't see a point where they said that her wings were fucking broken or anything. Like, it
Yeah.
seemed like she was able to fly earlier in the episode,
Yeah.
but then
Uh,
yeah.
it was like literally just to make her do a sacrifice for the episode. It's like, well, no, just
Yeah.
become big and fly. I'm sure the wings would, whatever.
They probably like Rodan, they would probably just like push some of the zombies away with like the
Yeah,
gale wind force.
or
Boom.
just something.
Kaiju reference.
Yes, that was a Kaiju reference. Now, my biggest issue though is the way it ends. It ends with a happy ending.
Kinda.
Well, yeah, they're like, Vision discovers he can reverse it using his little gem of whatever magic. And they're like, all right, we're gonna go and broadcast this in Wakanda, and it'll fix the zombie problem. If you really think about that, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because these zombies they were decrepit, they were disfigured, their noses were missing, chunks of their cheeks were gone. And you think about, if they reverse it, that's not going to heal up.
No, I mean, yeah, it's one of those like magic, like just wipe away wish things of like, not only are they just going to be alive, but they're going to fix all the decomposing that happened. It
Yeah,
makes
it
doesn't
just
make
be
sense.
a planet of ghouls
Yeah.
afterwards.
Can you imagine? That would be horrific if they
Yeah,
literally just brought back consciousness, but their
yeah.
bodies are the same. There's like, ah, and there's everyone in the world is just screaming in
Just
agony.
all the pain kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I said kind of is because like the ending was like them going to Wakanda, but then it had like a few seconds shot of like zombie Thanos with the
Yeah.
full gauntlet, which
Yeah.
which is fan service, whatever, I don't care. But the point is that he had the full gauntlet with the Infinity Stones. So to me, it seemed like they were hinting at that Thanos was waiting for him in Wakanda and then took the Mind Stone.
Oh.
So it's like they didn't even accomplish their goal. I don't know if that's what they were going for. That's just what I took from it.
It didn't even register until you said that. And I even saw the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones in that last shot. Oops. Well,
I don't know. It was unclear.
yeah.
But yeah, this, like I said, the same problems that I had with the other episodes is that tonally it doesn't really, I don't know what they're going for. Is this for kids? Is it not for kids? The jokes are just bad. It's very cringeworthy. Just like, and like I said, I know that that word is overused, but I genuinely wince at a lot of these jokes that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
They're just not funny. I will say this: there were two jokes that made me laugh in this. One was when Happy Hogan was being pulled. They were in Grand Central Station,
Mhm.
and they set up the joke, and I thought it was kind of lame at first when he was like shooting his Iron Man repulsors and saying like blam blam blam.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's kind of lame. But what was funny was he started getting dragged away into the darkness, and from the distance you could still hear him be like blam blam and you just would see just like a flash of light. So I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. That made me laugh. And the only other joke that made me laugh was when towards the end when they were flying away from this compound, like Spider-Man, T'Challa, and Paul Rudd's head. They were flying away from the compound, and Hope Van Dyne, giant wasp, like it was like there was a beat of silence where they were like, okay, it seems like they escaped, and then she just throws one zombie at it, and it's just
Yeah.
like, ah! And I thought that was funny,
Just
and
like the thunk. You're
yeah,
like,
yeah, but everything else was just, ugh.
yeah. No, what's funny is once again, you had problems with Sebastian Stan last time.
Dude, he
he, sh-
doesn't.
he should stay away from microphones.
He
I'm sorry.
doesn't. I could just feel him not caring.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he is a good actor, and
Oh
especially
yeah.
if you've seen him in things outside of the Marvel films. The dude commits, but this really just feels like a paycheck where he's like, okay, I'll just say these lines, and he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Did you notice the callbacks to the other shows that they had this year?
maybe.
It was weird because it was like we saw Falcon die, and then the lady apologizes to Bucky. She's like, sorry about your friend, and he was like, eh. And then like the whole like Vision and Wanda,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
true.
felt like those were like they were like referencing like, hey, remember these shows? And it's like, yeah, we do. They were pretty great.
Do you remember these shows that came out less than a year ago? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm aware.
And it's just like, yeah, we do remember them. What is going on here with this shovelware that you are producing?
I don't know, man. I like this show seems to have its fans, and that's fine. I don't
Does
know.
it?
It does. I mean, there's people that seem to enjoy this. It's I suppose. Again, I think it skews kind of younger, but the general consensus online seems to be like this is fun. But I guess I'm just not there in the sense that I d- I don't know. I'm not like as in love with this franchise to the point where it's enough for me to be like, oh, zombie Captain America, mind blown. Like it,
Yeah.
who cares? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
me.
It's just fan service references. It's great, but it doesn't. You need more to it.
Hmm.
For some people like us who are like, well,
Yeah.
that's great, but what else are you gonna give me
Hmm.
along with my cake or
Yeah.
my frosting here?
Yeah. Just seeing X character as a zombie just doesn't
Yeah.
really interest me. So yeah, again, maybe this will be the final nail on the coffin for this show, unless there's some weird out of left field episode that we hear about that we're like, okay, we'll check that one out.
I mean,
Um,
I guess.
maybe, but I can't imagine what it would be. So I really think that maybe this is a second time's a charm. I'm done with this show. If you like it,
sometimes
that's cool.
sometimes that is better.
There you go. So yeah, if you guys are fans of the show, that's really cool. I could see why it appeals to people. It's just not really my thing. Doesn't seem like it's Andres' thing. So you keep on enjoying it, Marvel fans. All right, now onto the onto the topic I really wanted to talk about.
The juicy deliciousness that was Malignant.
Oh my God, Malignant, the latest horror film in quotations, from director James Wan, who he started out in horror. He did the first Saw movie. He did the two Conjuring films. He did the first two Insidious films. The guy knows horror.
He does. He's quickly becoming my new favorite horror director at this
Yeah.
point.
Oh, right on.
Because I do enjoy his work.
Yeah.
Like you
Mhm.
just like you watch a James Wan film, you know it's gonna be at least entertaining.
Yeah, and it's definitely his presence was definitely missed with the third Conjuring movie that came out earlier this year. You
Yeah.
could just feel like there was kind of a lack of energy. There was a lack of style and vision with that film. But he's back with *Malignant*, which wasn't really on my radar going into this. I knew about it, but the trailer just kind of made it seem. I don't even know if you saw the trailer for it,
No.
but the trailer made it seem like another just haunting movie. Like it really seemed like this was Conjuring 4. which is not what it is at all.
No,
So
and
yeah, go for it.
they shouldn't have done that because I mean, okay. Uh very quickly. I think we should, for the sake of the viewers, if you can see this blind, I
Mhm.
think it's better to see it blind. You should skip, we should put a time code to skip forward or whatever, however
Yeah.
we're going to handle this, because I
Mhm.
really think this is a movie you need to see blind.
Mhm.
Trailer does not give you any idea of what it is. I live under a rock, so I didn't see a trailer anyway. But
Yeah.
I'm going to say, just preemptively, go see it. I'm calling it at this point, until something dethrones it, movie of the year for me. For me.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it
Okay.
is so insane.
Uh-huh. So yeah, non spoiler review real quick. It's so you think it's movie of the year. Well, we'll just kind of give our general thoughts, and then I'll mention when there's going to be spoilers, and we'll dive in.
Yeah,
So movie of the year for you. You really enjoyed this.
it was ridiculous, and I just don't see any other film being as ridiculous as this film ended up being.
I will agree with that for sure. So where I am with it, I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of horror. It does get ridiculous. Like, I mean, ridiculous with a capital R. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, generally, I had fun with it, but it did get just so silly to me at some point that I was like, I get it. Like, I get why this appeals to a lot of people. I was just kind of like, all right, this is absurd. But I'm glad I watched it, and I would recommend it to people. But yeah, seriously, don't if you don't know anything about this movie, don't look it up. If you have the means to go see it, check it out. If you like horror, if you're not into horror, if you're not into gory horror,
No.
you're clear. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Two things I'll say that are non-spoilery. A,
Mhm.
it is a slasher movie. You need to know this going in. It is a slasher movie. It's not a haunting film. It's a slasher flick. Holy
Yeah.
shit. And second, there are so many twists
So
that,
many twists.
and that's why I'm saying, once again, please go see this blind, because the plot twists are so effective. You don't know what's going to happen. You can start guessing after a while.
Oh, I disagree.
But
We'll get
I,
into it. We'll get
yeah,
into it. Okay.
but yeah.
So, recommendation from both of us.
Mhm.
Right now, we're going to jump into spoilers. So, again, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out first and then come back here. So, spoilers. I will say this right off the
Yes.
bat. I think because I didn't even know what the plot was. I saw the trailer. I just kind of forgot about it. I was just like, oh, it's a ghost movie. So I didn't even know what the plot was. I will say this, that I was just kind of curious. So when on Rotten Tomatoes and some of like the snapshot of the reviews, they kept mentioning the twist, the twist, the twist. So although I didn't know what the twist was or what the story was, I did go in expecting a twist. So I think
Yeah.
maybe I was like looking for clues more so than if I just went in not even knowing there was going to be a twist. So that's why I was able to call it really early on
Hmm.
what this was. But even then, it still just took it. It took. I was like, oh, that's what the premise is. But then they took that premise and the execution and they just turned it up to 11. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. So we're not going to do a full, beat by beat of this. But just to start off, the movie seems like it's just going to be a haunting, right? For
Yeah.
most of it. I mean, there's an opening scene of like they're in a hospital in what's the most ridiculous haunted asylum at the edge of a cliff that I
Yeah.
love. I thought that was great.
Oh yeah.
So great opening shot of just like the most ridiculous, impractical asylum that's like hanging off the cliff. Super gothic, super like this is Halloween vibes. Not the movie, but this the theme.
Borderline Burton-esque
For
without being
sure.
too stylized.
Dude, they could accept they kept the same shot and just had like it's Danny Elfman's music, and you were
Yeah.
like boom, 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 and you're like, yep, this is Tim Burton. So it starts off in this hospital. People are getting fucked up in this room by this patient that they're like, Gabriel. They keep calling him Gabriel. You don't
Hmm.
really know what's going on. But this is where I first got clued in to what was going on, is that they don't quite show it, right?
Hmm.
But they show behind, they subdue the patient Gabriel, and then from behind kind of like a plastic kind of clear sheet, you could kind of see like a weird kind of gross face thing, and they say like, we're gonna cut off this tumor or whatever the fuck she says, the
Yeah.
evil doctor. And so right off the bat, I was like, okay, it's an evil thing. It's an evil conjoined twin. I kind of picked up. I was like, okay, it's an evil, maybe not conjoined twin, but it was like it's an evil tumor, especially because it's called Malignant. That's what I thought was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So did you notice that as well, kind of, or?
I was picking up a bit. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like I was trying to figure out what's happening, especially because then, as later events happen, I'm like, all right, what is the relationship of this twisted, fucked up, whatever it is,
Yeah.
to the main character? So yeah, you're starting to pick up on things, but yeah, it throws you for a loop a couple of times.
It does. Yeah, it does have a lot of like red flags and subterfuge going
Yeah.
forward, especially because when it starts, like you messaged me, you were like, "Oh shit!" Like just abusive husband alert. Because we jump forward to present day. That took place in the '90s. That whole little opening sequence, and then this is present day, and it was one of one of the fastest turns into douchebag husband territory that I've seen.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I mean, it's awful. Domestic abuse is awful, but just the switch, where it's literally just him watching TV, like, "Oh hey, honey," and then she says one thing to him, and he's like, "What the fuck?" and just like throwing her. I'm like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. Okay,
Yeah.
I got scared, honestly, because it's like borderline Rob Zombie territory, because
Yeah.
he does that. He makes his characters really nasty and abusive and violent. Can't really say spoilers because we're in spoiler territory.
We're in spoiler. Yeah, so say whatever.
Don't worry, he'll be dead within 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's I figured. I was like, okay, the only reason why they they have to be setting him up to die. That's the only reason why they made him this repulsive this early on, because the main character, whose name is Emily, Karen, Emma,
She had a name.
she had a name. I usually have my phone with notes by me, but it was dead, so it's being charged right now. Her name was Emily, I think. Anyway, main character lady. She comes in and she's already holding her belly, so it's like, okay, she's pregnant, which is a visual shorthand to add more tension to any scene with her. And if
Oh yeah,
we're empathetic creatures, so we see a woman that's pregnant, you don't want anything bad to happen to her.
yes. Her name was Maddie.
Maddie, there we go.
Initially, it was Madison.
I think I think her later it's revealed that her name was Emily. I think so. Okay, cool. So Maddie, she's pregnant, and right off the bat, the husband's just like, "Are you gonna kill another one of my kid?" and starts like poking her belly. So he's just a douchebag. They introduce that she's had multiple miscarriages, and this is key. And I was like, I'm on to you, movie. He throws her against a wall, and in the back of her head, gonk, just hits the wall. Holy shit, she's bleeding. He does the thing immediately. It's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" Like a douchebag. But then this is where the movie kind of seems like it's going into ghost territory, because later that night, the TV flicks on, things are kind of, like turning on, and it almost looks like a Japanese horror film where you see like this dark shadow with dark matted hair come out and kill him. So I was getting like The Ring vibes. What about you?
I definitely was like, at first, because I was blind to this entire thing, I was like, oh no, is this gonna be a ghost movie?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm no offense to James Wan, great guy, but it's like, all right, I've seen your ghost films.
Yeah.
I do like variety.
Yeah. And variety we do get, because it sets it up, and I'm like, okay, ghost movie, kills the husband in a cool way. Also like The Ring, where when you find the dead body, they're kind of like disfigured.
Oh yeah.
So Maddie finds her husband's corpse, and his head is like twisted all the way around. It's pretty gnarly. And then the ghost goes to attack her, and she wakes up and finds out her husband's dead, but also that the baby that she was carrying did not make it. So it's big. It's very emotional. It's very sad.
Oh yeah, it's a sad moment.
Very sad. Kind of undercut by the fact that I think Maddie is the only good actor in the movie. That actress, I thought the other performances were not good, because the sister comes in, she's not very good.
She's trying her best though. I'll give her that much credit. I'm
not gonna crap on the actress. I think that she could probably do well. I think just the material she was given in the direction. I think there really was like they didn't know how are they right. They're writing the camp line. It's a right on the line of camp, but I don't think that a lot of the actors knew how to do that because not only her, but then you have Detective Model come in. As soon as he came in, he's like, "My name's Detective this," and I'm like, "No, you're not. You just got off a shift from Abercrombie and Fitch. Like,
Yeah, you're an underwear model, sir.
The dude was like 25 and is like, I'm detective. Like, no, you're like a rookie. Oh, anyway, so Detective Model comes in with sassy black coat. That was kind of weird. That seemed a bit anachronistic. I'm like,
well, there's a lot of anachronicity in this film.
That is true.
I do want to point out before we go on, this has a lot of callbacks to New Line Cinema 80s horror films.
Okay,
the vibe interspersed throughout
yeah, there is a lot of references, maybe not even references, but movies that I thought of while watching this.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on them about what we think the references were.
And that kind of cuts back to the performances of these actors and actresses. You're like, are we, how much of this is like homage to lesser films with smaller budgets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I agree. Like, I think that's kind of where it was off-putting. Where I think that in the hands of, I don't know. I think that with better direction, I think that I could have been on board and kind of understood what tone they were going for, but
that makes sense.
It felt very earnest, and to the point where I'm like, this is just kind of corny. And I don't know if it's always intending to be that corny. But yeah, it's from there, it kind of drops the ghosty bit, and then it jumps into the true genre that it is, which is Italian Gallo film.
Oh yeah.
To the T, because if anybody knows, if I'm pronouncing that correct, is it Gallo or Giallo? I'm Italian. I should know.
We're both part. Well, I'm part Italian myself. Yeah. I should know it, but
so I apologize. But it's the genre that both Mario Bava and Dario Argento essentially, perfected. Those from like the 60s and 70s. Essentially, it's a serial killer, but it's a serial killer that you don't see their face, and they have the one iconic thing that they have is dark black gloves. So everything from Tenebrae to Blood and Black Lace to a million different other movies from those two Italian horror masters. That's what it is. It's essentially just a black gloved killer going around and murdering people. And so I didn't expect that at all. But as soon as it was going, I was like, oh, this is okay, cool. So that was the first callback, because there's other things that happen in the movie that are just weird as shit.
Yes.
But when it's shifted into this, what were your thoughts? Were you excited? Were you like, I mean, clearly you liked it. So I think that you enjoyed the shift into like Italian horror like I did.
Oh yeah. No, I was relieved, and I was like, okay, what's happening on my screen right now? Yeah. I'm intrigued. My mind went into body horror territory initially.
Okay.
I thought what was happening, because early on you could see like the arms are going in the wrong direction with the slasher. His movements are really weird and unnatural. I was starting to go into territory of, with it being tinged by 80s horror, I was thinking, is it like they cut off this conjoined tumorous growth and then it like went waiting around in a biohazard bin, taking other amputated limbs and making this like...
dude, that'd have been gnarly as well.
That's where I thought they were going with it. I wasn't disappointed that it wasn't it, but that's where I was thinking. I was like, that arm is in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of very off-putting, because you see it at first and it's just kind of like, okay, that person's running weird. But then you see when they attack, and it is really kind of cool, like where they're kind of stabbing backwards. Essentially, like the arm is going in the wrong direction. Everything's going in the wrong direction. And then the kills themselves are pretty gnarly. They don't cut away. Like they show them like just eviscerating some people, like stabbing them in the face, which is awesome.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like in a good way, just like, okay, okay. It didn't go into like torture porn territory where it's too
No.
gratuitous, but no, they didn't hold back. It wasn't
No.
like a quick one and done. It was
Yeah.
like,
It didn't linger, but it did not shy away, which I
yeah,
appreciated. So I enjoyed that. Also reminded me of the 80s where you saw some extreme shit in some
oh
80s
yeah,
films. And so
hell
I'm
yeah.
glad that they wasn't just like a close up of a knife and then a close up of them screaming and then whatever. So
Hmm.
people get fucked up in a cool also they set up not just with the black gloves, but they set up kind of a cool iconography for this character where it's like dark black hair. They have like a kind of a leather trench coat, and his weapon of choice, uh, essentially, to give context to what this is, it's Gabriel. They say it's Gabriel. It's like the what they excised in the very beginning of the movie. So he
Hmm.
starts getting revenge on all those evil doctors at the asylum that tried to get rid of him. So he first attacks the main nurse, Doctor Feelgood, whatever her name is, Doctor.
Feel good.
What's her name? It was like Doctor Beverly. Everly.
Weaver, I think.
Doctor.
Hang on. Doctor, long list of names.
I think it is
Florence.
Weaver.
Yeah, it is Dr.
Okay.
Florence Weaver.
The reason why I thought that is because I thought of Dreamweaver, and so I remembered that there was a song. So I was like, Doctor Feelgood. What? Anyway, Doctor Feelgood.
Gonna make you feel all right.
Yeah. Unless you're Gabriel. So he goes
Unless
and
you're Gabriel.
breaks into her house, um, and kind of grabs this trophy that she has. It's like best surgeon award or something, and he fastens it, and it's his golden dagger. So he has this
Hmm.
gnarly looking golden dagger that he's
Yeah.
just stabbing people.
Yeah, the fashioning of that trophy into a weapon afterwards, that was so 80s
Oh
horror.
yeah.
I loved it. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the guy has a layer. He has this layer, this creepy layer that looks like an attic. Spoilers, it is an attic.
I know.
Where it has like this fan going with the light coming through. And he in addition to killing like one by one the people that were at the hospital, he also captures this woman and
Hmm.
holds her hostage. And he captures her in the Seattle underground, which I didn't know was a thing, but it's a real,
Yes.
which is cool. Essentially, there, Seattle, the city now, is literally built one story above what old town Seattle used to be. So you can take these tours, and this is a real thing, and you can see the old cobblestone streets and old lampposts, which is weird to me. I don't know. I don't, whatever, but it's cool.
It happens, but yeah, no, what a great location to put
Mhm.
a fucking horror movie in.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Great locations, very atmospheric.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so I really like the killer. Oh, go ahead.
Also, it's a good red herring, or is that the phrase?
Yeah, red herring.
Yeah, it is a good. I was like, wait, I know it's something with fish. Uh
It's a good white cod.
it's a good white cod because it throws you into like, wait, is this a ghost movie though? Because
Mhm.
it's all these like spooky old like horse buggies and shit.
Yeah.
And it was a good way to subvert people's expectations and one of the
Mhm.
many twists it takes.
Yeah. So now we can kind of get into the twists and where I felt like this was predictable. So it's going through the Italian horror route, and a lot of it just seemed sort of forecasted for me.
Mhm.
So there was a point halfway through where I just paused the film because I watched this at home. It was on HBO Max. So I didn't go to the theaters.
Yeah.
Just get some water or something. And both my wife and I just kind of looked, and we were like, okay, so it's Gabriel's on the back of her head still, and this is her. So essentially, something we didn't reference was that when these killings are happening, the main character Maddie kind of goes into like this trance state, and she like the whole. For anybody listening, like the fuck just happened. So I mean, literally, if you watch the movie, like everything around her, the camera does a little spin and just it just kind of
Yeah.
like morphs. So she
This
thinks, okay,
this wonderful use of digital effects to morph the backgrounds.
for sure, yeah. So Maddie thinks like, oh, I'm just doing some laundry, and then everything morphs, and she's in someone else's house entirely, and she's kind of watching helplessly as Gabriel starts killing people. So it's really cool. So you see that there is this sort of connection with Gabriel, and the things that sort of solidified what I knew what it was that they established early on that Gabriel can only communicate through electronics. So
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple scenes where it's just like the main character is talking to Gabriel just on the phone. And again, granted, they kind of show a bit of Gabriel's face, and it just looks like it's like a
Oh,
weird,
it's
scary face.
nasty,
It's
nasty.
a nasty face. Um, but then again, we're also seeing that he's just doing things backwards. And I just thought, okay, it's possible. I guess it's possible that they cut off Gabriel in the beginning and he had a fully grown body. Or like you said, he just picked up other parts and kind of Frankensteined it together. Or it's literally just on the back of her fucking head. And that's what it was. He
No.
The whole movie built up, and I'm jumping over stuff, so we can go back, but this is the reason why we got to talk about this movie is that they introduce Gabriel. It's like he has like this imaginary friend as she was a kid, just talking to him. And Gabriel's a little freak too. He's just talking to a little girl Maddie, because we see like from home videos of her as a kid, and she has like a little like toy phone, and she picks it up and she's like, "What? No, I don't want to kill the baby." Just like just the weird
Have a
Gabriel.
slice of cake.
Yeah. So Gabriel is what is he? So it's not just that he's a tumor, because he is a tumor. It is a tumor. On the back of her fucking skull, which I can't emphasize enough. And not only that, but he can communicate through any electronics, apparently.
He's psychokinetic.
Apparently. Why? And then two, he can also like produce like these very vivid hallucinations for Maddie. So he will make her think you're doing one thing, like doing the laundry, or as she was a kid, we see that Gabriel made her think that she got a knife and was going to cut into a piece of cake, when in actuality we see that it's a little girl standing over her mother who's pregnant with her sister and is about to stab her stomach.
Yeah.
Which is gnarly. And so like, how does he do that?
Mind powers, because they're conjoined.
No, it's like, oh, you know, all those conjoined twins in real life that can manipulate each other's thoughts. So I mean, that doesn't make sense, but that's the least of it. But the whole reveal, because it's essentially we're cutting back and forth. It's at a essentially the police officer, not Dr. Model, Detective Model, and his sassy black sidekick. They've essentially, it's like, look, everything is tying Maddie together with the killings. Like, she knows what it's going to happen. She goes to them, it's like, I can see the killings. And then literally the woman that we talked about that was kidnapped falls through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
At this point, which is hilarious. Like, she's just talking with the cops at her house, right? Maddie's house. And then just like she just fucking falls through the roof. And then they go into the attic. They find out that the killer's lair was in her attic the entire time. So everything is pointing to Maddie. And again, at this point, I'm like, I know it. It is her. It's the back of her fucking head. I don't know if Court's gonna appreciate how much I'm saying the F word, but there's no other way. There's no other word to use. So everything's leading up to it. Maddie's in a prison cell, which is a scene in and of itself that I need to talk to you about. And
with the lady from the 70s and a lady from the 80s, and what decade is this?
She goes through a time warp. I am positive. And anybody that has seen it, I'm almost convinced literally she went through a time warp, because she goes in it and it's the jail cell that literally is like, here's a fucking gangster from a greaser, this person from the 70s. I saw someone post this tweet, and it's so true. There was a black woman that was dressed like Beyonce from Austin Powers Goldmember with a full-on afro, and something that has never happened in any holding cell, any woman's holding cell ever. But they just like, hey, you know, this one random woman in general, fuck her. And they just start beating Maddie up. That's not what happens. Like, okay, I'm not gonna say any names, but I've known people that have gotten a DUI before, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so they've been in a woman's holding cell. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
You're in there. It's maybe a couple other people that are picked up for similar things. They just do their own thing. Nobody's just like it was like she was on the fucking prison yard. You know, they
I
want to
know.
have that scene of like, okay, maybe in a women's prison, but she was just in a holding cell that's apparently not guarded.
Yeah.
You know, like the closest guard is like 2.5 miles south, apparently. So because shit gets, that's where all hell breaks loose, and that's when the movie is just like, screw it.
Before we do that, though,
Okay.
there was another red herring, which was when they were interrogating her, Maddie. Fucking Gabriel calls on the phone and they put it on speaker. And that was just another red herring where you're like, wait, but how if there are two? How? And
See,
then
yeah, that's where I was like, I was gonna say, I was like, I'm on to you, movie. They were trying to throw me for a curve. I'm like, I see what you're doing. Because again, they established that Gabriel, for whatever reason, can communicate through electronics. And that he can't like speak on the back of her head, but he can like whatever. So I was like, so yeah, he could easily be in the room with them and then still call on the phone. And that's what happened. He was in the room.
he was in the fucking room.
So we get the simultaneous reveal. Again, Maddie's in a prison cell, getting the shit beat out of her by two people that should not exist in this time. They are women out of time. And
it was a time prison, you see.
it was wild. Like Doctor Who has nothing on this. And while that's happening, her sister, her adopted sister, which, oh, by the way, I gotta mention, sorry, I'm jumping around, but just so much. Okay. So one of my favorite moments that I laughed out loud at was that earlier in the movie, after the initial attack, after Maddie's husband died, she's talking with her sister, and they drop the bomb. And apparently, the movie thought this was a big ass reveal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Where go ahead.
As I said, there's like 15 plot twists, or they're treated as plot twists. That was one of them where it's like, oh, hey, you're adopted. And it's like, what?
And it is presented in that manner, seriously, because it's like, I need something to tell you. Like sister to sister, I'm adopted. And there's this dramatic push in and this musical cue of like, dawn. And the sister's face is just like, whoa. Like, oh my God. And then it goes into this weird rendition of Where Is My Mind from the Pixies that they play about 17 and a half times throughout this movie.
It's Gabriel's theme. I picked up on that and I was like, that is Where Is My... Okay.
Oh, it was so clever. Gabriel's just listening and he's like, this is my jam.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're with the adopted sister and the adopted mother, and they're watching old videos and stuff. No, not just old videos, but her sister. I forgot. Oh my God, I forgot all about this. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. She drives to the asylum, and I don't know if you laughed at this, but because it was a green screen, but she drove literally to the edge of the fucking cliff.
Yeah.
Just to park her car. She's like, you could have parked maybe 20 yards back. She's like, no, I got to park my car right on the edge of the cliff.
She just lives her life to the extreme.
I guess so. Because then she goes into the creepiest asylum in the world, and like, by herself.
It was like the Silent Hill asylum of horrors. Like,
yeah, dude, I swear to God, like I could have been with like a group of like 5 of my burliest guy friends, and I would still be like, hey, let's not go into the fucking basement of this creepy asylum.
Yeah, the fucking basement. The place you don't go in a place like that.
And she just goes, this 105-pound woman goes by herself.
And it wasn't it nighttime, or
it was the nightest of nights. It was just like a full moon going on. Or
like rule number 1 of anything ever: don't go into a place like that in the middle of the night by yourself. Like, holy shit! I'd be like, hey, let's get 5 friends and we're gonna go in here at 2 p.m. on a sunny day If it starts drizzling, we're not even gonna finish the trip there.
No,
Fuck it.
no. Yeah, and even then, you get in, you get out. But
Yeah.
she's the bravest person I've ever known, and she does it. And she gets some old footage of of Emily. Madison's character's name was Emily as a kid. She was put up for adoption because she was born. Go ahead.
That was another kind of hint at what was going to happen
Yeah.
because she couldn't remember anything from before the adoption. And you're like, well, if, you know, your brains were sharing real estate, you know, surgery, it would do that.
Sure, why not? So they have this. They're watching this home video. Her sister and her mom at home, and they're talking to Emily as a kid, and then it does a pan around, and you just see on the back a puppet, but it's amazing and it's beautiful, and I love it. It's literally just on the back of her head. It has little dangly arms, and it's just like
little T-Rex arms,
T-Rex arms, and it's just snarling, just so angry. And that's on the back of her fucking head. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. We're just gonna remove it. And which is hilarious to me because it's like, one, this woman would have horrific back scars.
That's what I kept thinking too. I was like, we did never see her back. I'm surprised nobody.
But I think we saw the back of her neck, right? Maybe.
No, it was always covered by hair.
Yeah.
Because they were, you know.
So yeah,
hiding things behind that.
Granted, we never saw her back. I don't think. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But I could imagine that she would have the worst, because literally it's not just a tumor. It's literally her back. They cut off her back, and then they must have had skin grafts on it. And also, in one of the funniest visuals for me in the movie was they had this shot of like pushing Gabriel's face back into her skull. And I'm like, yeah, that's how surgery works. You know, if you have a brain swelling, the surgeons will just push your brain back into your skull. No, that is the danger zone. You just gave that woman brain damage.
Yeah, for real. I kept thinking about that too. I was like, well, if Gabriel's still alive, you'd hear like gnawing sounds on the inside of that skull. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah, he's just there waiting the entire time. So they push Gabriel back into her skull, as you do as a surgeon.
Yes.
And then they just sew it up. Everything's fine. It's great. And then he's unleashed again in the beginning of the movie when douchebag husband throws her against the wall. Her head just bashes against the wall, and it unleashes Gabriel. Yes. So then the movie just does a big old line of coke and does not slow down from there.
Just goes for broke.
So Madison jumps up in the prison cell with like 15 other women, the time warp cell.
Time warp cell.
She rips open her skull, so like a gross little face comes out. Her body contorts, so it's like facing the other way, and then she just starts fucking doing kung fu on him, and it's like Mortal Kombat. Like she punches through his chest. She's breaking arms. It's wild.
That's one thing I kept thinking about too. I'm like, okay, I can buy the insanity they're presenting us, but why is she so goddamn strong?
I don't know. Yeah, that's another thing. Telekinesis, or not telekinesis, but like you said,
psychokinesis.
Exactly. And can do stuff with electricity, and is apparently also super goddamn inhumanly strong for no reason.
Mm-hmm. My initial thought, I will say this, at first when they introduced the Gabriel character, I thought he was an alien. I was like, oh, Independence Day alien style. Okay. Yeah. But no, at least as far as we know, no. But it's almost like maybe you should have gone that direction because it would explain the strength.
They didn't really explain where he came from, which is fine. We don't need to have an explanation for everything. But it's
no, they did. They did. He was what was it? It was some kind of condition where it's like you have a conjoined twin, but they don't develop fully as the zygote splits or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I just meant like they didn't really explain why he has super strength.
Oh, that part, yeah. No.
Yeah. No, so which is fine. Yeah, they did explain essentially what it was. It was like this conjoined twin, essentially, but it was In most cases, when there are, because a lot of conjoined twins are in the embryonic state, they don't last. Like one twin will kind of absorb the other.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, in real life, by the way, in every once in a while, someone will be born and there might be like little remnants of like something on their body that you can just quickly remove. But in Gabriel's case, it was like arms and a face.
And he was a parasitic conjoined twin. That was the specific thing they pointed out. Why, aside from the fact that he can head kill anybody with his mind, the fact that he was feeding off of her body, and so she was dying. So they're like, well, fuck this, get rid of the fucking creeper.
Yeah. And also the weird thing they just described about like the 3 other miscarriages that Madison had were because Gabriel was just feeding off the fetuses, which is like, that was a gross touch. That was like definitely another 80s thing.
Oh yeah.
Where they just don't care and they're just like, fuck it, like let's just get nasty with this. So this is what I'll say. Although I feel like I pegged what the twist was, like, oh, it's the back of her head, I will say the movie, the presentation of it and where it went after that I did not call. I didn't expect her to turn into Jackie Chan and brutally murder like 20 women in the time warp cell.
Bones coming out of arms and shit because she's breaking them.
And again, this is where we say like the cop had to the nearest guard had to run a marathon just to go, but because he comes in, or someone finally shows up. So I don't know how they didn't hear it. They didn't hear anybody screaming or calling for help.
10 people getting murdered simultaneously.
But Gabriel, breaks free, kills the cop, takes the keys, gets his accoutrement back. He gets his coat and everything and his knife. And then it turns into a legit action movie for a little bit. Did you ever, this is related, but did you ever see James Wan's Aquaman?
No, I did not.
The only reason why I said it is because this scene felt very much like some of his action scenes in Aquaman, where it's a lot of like very wide angle lens, almost fisheye, almost very wide angle, and a lot of like whoop, like swishing around with the choreography. And that's what was happening here. Again, this is where it was like Jackie Chan. It was literally like he was like doing kung fu and stabbing people. And it wasn't even a horror movie at this point. It was just an action movie.
Just insanely entertaining.
But it was hilarious because one, he's doing everything backwards again. And it was this mixture of like, from wide shots, you would see a stuntman with just a fake mask of Madison on his head. Just a fake mask. And then they would cut to like some close-ups of like the real actress's face just on the back of this person. Hilarious. I was laughing out loud of how I can't emphasize how just like, not just even the concept, but visually, it was hilarious and ridiculous.
I that's why I love this movie, because I'm like, oh my god, they went for it, and they fucking went for it with this one.
So that's one thing I'll say. It's like, I did not expect it to go this hardcore. And this is where, before we get to the ending, this is where a couple other horror movies that came to mind, I want to hear more about references that you thought as well, was 2 movies. One was It's Alive from the 70s, which is also like it's like a demon baby that's born and it goes on a killing spree, and it's similar where like you see the baby and it's just like, it's like a weird little goblin puppet. and also the movie Basket Case. Did you see Basket Case?
I've seen Basket Case. I've seen all 3 of them.
Oh my god, I've only seen the first one, but that's also another conjoined twin, but they removed the conjoined twin and it's just a little puppet. And that's where I afterwards at the end of it is, even though I had a lot of fun with this one, I said, if only this was not remade, but pre-made, like if the same exact script was given to some low budget company in the 1980s, it would have been amazing. It would have been the
Yes.
same. This would have been a cult classic.
Absolutely.
But now it's, there's more modern kind of special effects, and it's looks a little more stylish and up to date. But the same script could have worked flawlessly in 1980s.
Absolutely.
Which is a testament. That's not a criticism. I thought that was a tremendous amount of fun.
Oh yeah.
But then it gets to the ending that it lost me a little bit. So I think we established, I don't know if I said it, but the woman that we talked about that was kidnapped by Gabriel earlier.
Oh yeah.
It's revealed that this was the technically the biological mother of Gabriel and Madison.
Yes.
She was a teenager at the time, and this baby was conceived under an act of assault. Again, very 1980s, where they're just like, this is trash. Everything is just trash and grimy. What happened to the teenage mother? Oh, she was assaulted. It's like, Jesus Christ. So Gabriel's on his way to the hospital to kill his biological mother because he's very angry, so angry. And then they have a confrontation. The sister comes and she's like, remember who you are. And there's like a reverse Uno card that happens. So there's a scene where Madison traps, they have a fake out where Gabriel thinks he killed the mother and he thinks he killed the sister, but really Madison was like, well, I did a reverse Uno and now I created a false reality for you, and now you're trapped in my prison mind cell. That's dumb in and of itself. But the dialogue, Andris, was just so bad. I wish I checked it again to pick it up, but it was just really like, I don't know, just like in the performance was just like, you'll never get out of here. You're stuck in my, oh man.
It's I felt like it's very Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like, I've got the power for the dreams now, Freddy.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, Dream Warriors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it felt. I mean, coincidentally, I don't know if you know this, New Line owns Freddy.
Yeah, that was before they were known as like a serious company because of Lord of the Rings. They made schlock like that. So yeah, I didn't make that connection until now, but you're absolutely right. Both produced by New Line Cinema, which is another reason why this would have fit in perfectly, I think, with the 80s.
Oh yeah.
So that just didn't do it for me because, one, it was clearly setting up a sequel, which this movie's not going to get.
Oh hell.
Because we'll talk about this afterwards about the audience reception so far. But did that? Am I crazy? Because I know you like I know that you were riding the ridiculousness of it, but can you at least give me the fact that the writing of that scene was just atrocious?
Oh, when I say movie of the year, I'm not saying like, oh, it's fantastic, fucking Schindler's List caliber greatness. I'm saying nothing's gonna top the insanity of this film.
No, nothing will. It will not.
No, it's terrible writing. It's schlocky, and it's just like, yeah, when she's being strong, when she's like, I'm trapping you in my mind now, you're like, all right.
Yeah. So she traps Gabriel in her mind palace, and I don't know what happens to like the literal thing on the back of her head, but fuck it, who cares, I guess. And then in something that would have been a great joke, I thought they were going to do it. This is a nitpick, so I'm not going to blame the movie, but I thought this would have been a great joke. So essentially, she traps Gabriel, and then she's still in the hospital, and she sees her sister trapped under a big, massive, heavy hospital bed. And there's a moment she's like, just leave me. And she's like, if Gabriel had strength, then so do I. And I really thought the movie was going to be like her trying to lift it, hurting her back, and be like, oh, okay, no, I don't actually have it.
Like, fuck.
Yeah. I really thought, and I would have laughed out loud if she's like, oh, my back. Credits. But then, but no, this was also corny, where she's like, if he has the power, then so do I. And then she lifts it, and they hug, and the end.
And then they put on the screen, Emily will return in X-Men, the next film.
Holy shit. Yeah. There is a Marvel stinger, because they do the thing of like, they show them in the same shot, they're hugging, and they pan over to a light that's off. and then you don't see it turn on, but you hear it. Zzz,
Yeah,
hear
the
like it,
flickering.
and you're like, oh, Gabriel's coming back. Oh no. But this movie's never going to get a sequel.
I
I think
hope not.
it doesn't need one.
No.
In the 80s, this would have got a million sequels, and they would have
Yes.
that would have been amazing. But
Other people who discover they have conjoined twins buried in the back
oh
of their
my God,
heads.
that's amazing, dude. I wish we lived in an alternate reality where this was a series alongside of Freddy and shit. But here's the thing. I mean, this movie was hurt partially because it was released on HBO Max.
Mhm.
But also this is so niche. I think that you liked it more than I did. I still enjoyed it. I still had fun with it. I'm recommending it, so I'm not like crapping on it.
Yeah.
But it's clear that it was like for you and a couple other friends that I talked to, they loved it because of how ridiculous it is. And
Yeah.
everything. And even I wouldn't have appreciated it as much if I didn't know as much about horror or liked horror through the ages.
Yeah.
Because it's not for mainstream audiences. And I'm reading reviews of like on Rotten Tomatoes of not critic reviews, because critics are more savvy to what it's referencing, but audience scores for this are very low, and people are talking about that moment in the prison cell, people laughing out loud in the theater. And I can see why, because people were like, this is not what I expected. I don't know what you're referencing. This is stupid. And I don't really blame them, to be honest.
I mean, we live in an age where you can get away with niche films.
Yeah.
But
So
the problem is James Wan has become kind of a household name thanks to all of his films. And when you become such a well-known director and people don't quite know what you're doing, something like this can backfire. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were expecting that James Wan ghost story. They were just expecting a woman in a house to be haunted, and this was not that.
And I'm glad.
No,
That's
me too.
on the flip side, me and you, yeah, we're just like, no, this is great. Different direction. The man does love his old movies.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like calling them old because I was born in the 80s.
Classic movies.
80s movies.
80s
He likes
movies.
his 80s movies.
He likes his 80s movies. Yeah. So again, I didn't like it as much, but if you guys are listening to hopefully you go in blind, but I'll end the spoiler thing here. I'll put a little thing up since I guess I'm editing it. But essentially, if you are a fan of horror movies, if you're a fan of 80s horror movies, and you know a bit of your stuff, you know a bit of the Italian Gallo films.
If you like slasher flicks,
check this out. Seriously, check it out. I
spicy meatball.
It gets weird. It gets corny. I think watching this with a beer or maybe something else, I think would elevate the experience. So yeah, I recommend it, but just know you're getting something weird. And kudos for Warner Brothers for just making this. I mean,
absolutely.
Obviously, they only made it because James Wan's last film for them made literally $1 billion with Aquaman. So all you have to do to make your weird dream niche project come true is make $1 billion for a company. And then they'll just give you carte blanche to make the weirdest shit possible.
Or make a phone call to Asylum Pictures because they make anything.
If you want something with a bit of quality, if you want an actual production team, then don't go the Asylum route. But if you don't care, then yeah. So I think that wraps it up. Oh, go.
Yes.
I want to say one thing. Sorry.
I will say, piggybacking a bit on what you were saying, I'm happy to see that these bigger studios are starting to take risks like this, at least, because that was kind of the big pushback against everything and why these little indie production companies started becoming very prevalent in the 2000s and 2010s. It was like, finally, we didn't have to be safe anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see that this one isn't playing it safe. It's like, hey, there is a lot of fun to be had if you don't set the bar that high.
For sure.
I hate saying it that way. But
no, I know what you mean. I don't know how much more of these you would do, especially because this isn't really doing too well at the box office.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that this was made and I was able to witness it.
Yes.
So yeah, moving on to our final topic.
Yes.
And Andris, why don't you tell us what that is?
Well, with me and Chris being a couple of Godzilla nerds, I decided this would be an opportune time to do a Godzilla themed question.
Mhm.
Here we go. Chris, my question to you that I will be also answering is, what is your favorite non-Godzilla kaiju? Because he's had so many enemies and allies.
Mhm.
Go for it.
So I know that we're talking about it, like whether we should just do a 1 or 5. So I don't have like an official top 5, but I'm sure that off the cuff we could rattle off a few.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just gonna go through. So like you said, there's so many kaiju. There's so many over the period of time. I think that the ones that really stand out to me are Anguirus,
Hmm.
which is oddly enough his not oddly enough, but that was the first monster that he actually fought
Hmm.
in Godzilla Raids Again, also known as originally as Gigantus the Fire Monster
Oh
for some
God.
reason. That was the first monster he fought, and but not only that, but he's become sort of like, especially during the Showa era, Anguirus kind of was like his best bud.
Hmm.
Like they were friends. They fought against, Mechagodzilla. They fought against Gigan. They fought side by side multiple times.
Hmm.
And there's just something cute about him. He's just kind of like a dog. He just seems like innocent. It's clearly just a guy crawling on his hands and knees, which I always thought was, even as a kid, it was just like, why is this monster crawling on its knees? But
Yes.
obviously, they didn't want some guy just crouched for 12 hours while filming this. um so I always really liked Anguirus, but that's a bit of nostalgia, because there are, if we're like comparing and really getting into the lore of this, of like, well, who's kind of the coolest, or who's like the strongest? And when I
Hmm.
think of like the most powerful, I kind of gravitate towards like Destroya, or
Hmm.
Destroya, because who is literally just like, fuck it, the devil. You know what I mean? It's like, what kaiju is this? He's the devil. He looks terrifying.
Oh yeah.
His design is incredible. Just like this massive imposing force with these giant bat-like wings and a
Hmm.
horn and stuff. So yeah, those are just two, because I don't want to step over yours. So those are some initial two. I want to
Okay.
hear I want to hear some of yours.
All right. For me, well, I only had one in mind, but I can think of more.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, the one I'm going to start with would be going to the Showa era. I'm a major fan of Hydra,
Oh yeah. Okay.
because my reason for it is because if you look at all the different ones that his opponents over the years, they were all kind of straightforward, but
Mhm.
what they managed to create and accomplish with Hydra was so ambitious, where it was
Yeah.
like this thing that composed of many little things, and he evolved on camera, and it was just very fascinating and different, especially, usually his opponents were like, here's a space alien, or here's an
Yeah.
ancient dinosaur. Hero was just so different. uh
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it came from which is also kind of known in the States originally for a while, was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
hmm
Um and at least for the Showa era, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd be willing to say that out of the Showa era, the two most political, not political, but just more social commentary, the movies of the Godzilla films that had the most social commentary were the original Godzilla or Gojira from 1954,
hmm
and then Godzilla versus Hedorah. I always pronounce it Hedorah, but I don't know. I don't know which one is. So Godzilla versus Hedorah, Smog Monster, because that movie is basically like, holy fuck, pollution is bad.
I'm
It
not gonna lie, when I first saw that movie, like, I went outside with a trash bag afterwards and started
Yeah,
collecting garbage.
you
uh,
better.
I was like, nope, we're not doing this.
I'm not having Hedorah just about to like suck me up. That's a brutal movie.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's such a interesting monster. Like, because like you said, he takes on so many different forms. He can fly. He's sludge. He can walk. And he like he kills a ton of people in brutal ways too, with his smog and with like acid and shit.
Yes. Yeah, that's what's so weird about that film too, though. Is like it's campy, but then you have these graphic deaths where people are just eroding away to bone.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. I will say though about that movie, I think I mentioned it to you. That's one of the few times where I actually thought the Godzilla fight went on too long. Because
Yes.
last time I watched it, it was just kind of repeating. A lot was happening. I was like, oh, this is kind of dragging on. But then it gets weird. Like Godzilla pulls out its eyeballs or something. I don't know. It's a weird movie.
And he flies.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that. Yeah.
How can you forget about the flying?
I try to block it out of my memory because it upsets me.
Oh, it's so schlocky.
Uh,
If we're gonna, if let's see, Heisei. If I'm gonna go Heisei era, I think I'm gonna go with the first one I got introduced to, which is Biollante.
hell yeah.
Just because that was one of the issues I have with Heisei is a lot of it was repeating. Like they just
Yeah.
reintroduced a lot of the same characters.
Mm-hmm.
That one though is just like, fuck it, here we go. Genetic experimentation gone wrong. Giant plant monster.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Similar to Hydra, it's one of the more original monsters,
Yes.
especially just in concept and design.
Oh,
Because yeah, the other one's like, okay, space monster, this one's a mech. But Biollante, like you said, it's just like this genetically engineered weird crossbreed between a plant and
Godzilla.
yeah. So yeah. Um I love it. That I think that's one of like you and I've talked about before. That's one of my favorite Godzilla films. Not
Yeah.
not just because of the monster, but the movie itself is terrific.
It's so well made.
It's like
Like
yeah.
just it's 80s horror just right in front of you, just down to the weird lighting and
Oh yeah. And Biollante is such a cool character because it starts off as essentially just a giant rose. And then it turns into this weird crocodile thing with
yes.
it's green and has like little tentacles with mouths and then like a big fat beer belly. There's like this glowing orb of jelly, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the flip side, even though I was
Well,
complaining about the smog monster having too long of a fight, I wish the final confrontation with the final form of Biollante lasted just a bit longer.
yeah.
Because
No,
that character
absolutely.
design, the character design is so cool.
It's on screen for like 10 minutes, I think, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
which is a shame. I loved it. I wish I could have seen more of it, but
well, especially because it's not a fight that ends fairly. It's just like, oh, the anti-nuclear energy bacteria is working and
yeah.
he's down.
Yeah,
Bye.
and then Godzilla like face plants into the water. It's pretty awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Great movie though.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, so the two from both of us, I completely agree with yours. I think those are fantastic choices. I'm just trying to think if no, I think two each will be fine.
Well, I mean, we do have the Millennium Era.
That's true. My computer says it's about to die, so maybe one more. We have to think of
Okay.
one more. So Orga's okay. What other one? There's not really new ones from the Millennium era. There's
Yeah, it did suffer a lot from a lot of the same thing. Even the second film after that, the Megaguirus was just something that
Batra.
was it was Batroop 2.0, but not as cool.
And then they had Monster X and Final Wars, but that just kind of turned out to be like a weird version of Ghidorah.
Yeah. Well, if we're not going with
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you want to choose from it, I just
no.
I like the Millennium series. It's just it didn't really introduce that many new characters.
Yeah. I would go with Millennium's Gigan. Was badass.
Oh hell yeah, that was I love that redesign. So yeah, Millennium had a lot of really good
redesigns.
The redesign of Mechagodzilla I think is cool. It's
hell yeah,
my second favorite one. I mean, you can't beat the original. I think you said it was your favorite, right? Or no?
No, the original's my favorite.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
And yeah, in the hierarchy of Mechagodzilla's, yeah, I feel so every time I think about Mechagodzilla, I get sad because I'm like, Mechagodzilla 2 is just such a letdown of a design.
Yeah, I like that movie, but it just kind of look weird. He just kind of looks like plasticky and kind of lame.
Yeah, but there you have it.
There you have it. All right, guys. Before my computer just like craps out, I think it was a good episode. I had a lot of fun. Yeah,
I had a lot of fun too.
So, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about the things we covered today. The Matrix Resurrections. Are you excited for that? Let us know. Have you seen the latest episode of What If? Are you a fan of the show more so than us? We'd love to hear about it. Tell us why. Explain why, really. No, I'm just joking. Malignant. If you've seen it, holy shit, please talk about it in the comments because that is an amazing, batshit insane movie. And if you're a fan of Godzilla, drop your favorite monster down below. I know that's a very niche topic, but just do it. So, Andres, before we go, where can people find you?
If you do a YouTube search for Cheap Thrills Unspeakable Terror, you will find my videos. I do reviews of low-budget sci-fi and horror from the dawn of cinema to the modern era.
Perfect. I don't have a YouTube channel. I just have an Instagram account. At the Art of Light and Shadow. It's a fun kind of daily cinema blog talking about the movies that I watch, doing some fun rankings right now, and a lot of community kind of collaborative efforts. It's a lot of fun. So check it out if you're interested. Art of Light and Shadow. And of course, this is going to be on Court's not personal. So he's going to be on Court's YouTube channel. So if you're watching this, check out some of the other videos that he has. Not all of them. Yeah, he's fantastic. Not all of them are this long. He does a lot more like digestible, movie reviews. So check him out. All right, guys. So
but there's more.
Whoa.
If you think we have faces for radio, we have good news for you. We have podcasts available in audio form on Spotify and all the other places that I don't know because I don't have a list. But
yeah, I'll be sure to list it in the body of this video. But essentially, yeah, if you don't want to just watch a 90-minute YouTube video, this is also in audio form, like all the great podcasts. So listen on your way to work. If you're just bored, if you want to just listen to part of it, check it out later. It's totally up to you. The choice is yours, people. There you go. All right, perfect. All right, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Until next time.
Mass Media Hysteria.